said, I'm going to go back to the roofing idea. I'm going to start a business. And I said, I can do that. I know roofing really well. And if I flip a switch, and I know what that switch is in my head. So if I flip this switch, and so that's what I did. I flipped the switch. I literally stopped drinking. And I called my brother. I said, hey, what if we start a business?
Today's guest is proof that one decision can change the course of your life. Jim Reel grew up in the construction industry, but like many young men, he found himself heading down a path that wasn't leading where he wanted to go. Hear about the point when Jim decided to bet fully on himself, his family, and create an entirely different future. As the founder of Reel Roofing and Construction, Jim has grown from a local roofing business into a multi-million-dollar operation, expanding well beyond northeastern Pennsylvania into markets like Pittsburgh, Florida, and beyond. Jim's story is one of humility, grit, and gratitude, second chances, entrepreneurship, leadership, and family. Please welcome Jim Reel to the podcast.
So, hey, man, thank you. So this is funny that so you should know this. Like, I think if anybody goes to Town and Country more than Jim and I'd be surprised. So we see each other at the restaurant all the time. We have had lunch a couple times, and we were just talking, and Jim was talking about his business and some of his personal life, and I was just like, I think you got to be on this podcast because you're an interesting story, and I mean that. I don't mean it like you're
nervous.
Yeah.
No,
I don't mean you're like a lab experiment or anything. It's just I thought about this over the weekend before we sat down, and I wanted to share this with you. And I mean this as a compliment. So I grew up in the contracting business, right? My father started it when he came to Pennsylvania. My brother has taken it to all new levels and everything. But when I was in high school, and I think it was probably very good for me, man, we worked our tail off every summer. I mean, working for money and to save up for this or that. And I don't know, probably done maybe 30 or 40 roofs in my life. And all of those were when I was in my teens or 20s. And I can remember like just sweating your tail off, ripping off the shingles, and then, being careful they don't come back on the house and all this stuff. And then going down, and after carrying up the bundles of shingles, then going down and going, oh, I got to get the wheelbarrow and roll all this up to the dumpster. And my arms would be cut up from the shingles and the nails and everything. And all I could think about was, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. No way. And then I got thinking about that over the weekend, and I'm like, and here's a guy who has done all that stuff and looked at the same thing, roofing, and turned it into a huge business. So why are we wired differently?
I didn't look at it like that. I had a plan from the start.
Okay.
So I knew from the start that I wasn't going to have to do the labor. I was going to hire crews and salespeople and build a business and do it that way.
Yeah. So that was the difference. You just took yourself out of the
equation. Yeah. Had a plan for a business.
So how old were you when you made that decision?
Oh, geez. 32.
All right.
I'm 40 now, 32.
Okay. So take me back to the beginning. So were you doing this stuff in school, in high school?
Oh, stuff? Yeah. I grew up doing it with my dad. We always did construction, and roofing was part of it. Sheetrock, masonry, all sorts of stuff. And
so I'm putting you in this uncomfortable position because
yes.
I said to him, you don't
I
like
don't like
to
talk about myself. I don't like the focus to be on me. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah. Well, that's actually...
We could just share ideas.
No, Jim, this is a great example, man, because I think that successful business owners often put themselves in spots where they're not comfortable. And that's the only way you grow.
Oh, I totally have.
It happens with your body, with your muscles. It happens 100%. With your business. And I've always sensed that. Like, you don't like talking about yourself. You like talking about your team and what you're doing and you're expanding.
Plan. I like to think about the future. That's the whole thing. So I went into this with the idea that I wasn't going to be doing it forever. It was a short-term thing. I'm going to do A, B, and C, and then sell the business and get out. So that's how I was able to kind of do that. I guess growing up, I thought I never want to do this.
Yeah.
I did it with my dad, and yeah, there's no way I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. He's broke. He doesn't make any money.
Right.
Whatever. This is not the plan. So I wanted to be everything else but that. So I was working, see, 32. I was working for a guy doing all sorts of construction, decks, siding, remodeling, and I started. The biggest thing was the internet. I started seeing videos of roofers that do make this into a business
Yep.
and that just do roofing. And so the guy I was working for, I said, hey, why don't I'm good at roofing? I know roofing. Why don't we just I'll focus on the roofing, you focus on the rest, and we'll make it into a business. And he didn't want to do that. So I quit working for him. I said, I'm going to do it, and I did.
Yeah. That itself was like a really, I think, a courageous move, and it could have, bit you in the ass, right? But
Not
like,
really.
if you have
What did I have to lose?
well, I think a lot of
Nothing.
people doing general contracting or general whatever to say like, I'm only going to work with this because I'm really good at it,
Mhm.
or it's
That's
profitable,
the
or
best way
both.
to go.
It's hard to do that though.
I guess it's hard to do that. It's a mindset, change of mindset. Yeah, because you think, oh, well, am I going to get enough roofs? Am I going to get enough siding? Am I going to get enough gutters to hold me over? And the thing is it works out a lot better.
Hmm.
You get really good at one thing. People know you for that. Then you build a name for yourself. Then people from all over start calling you for it. And then we run Facebook ads. That's huge.
Yeah.
So
I think I told you that. Like,
yeah.
one of the things that stood out to me before I knew Jim, Jim went to the same gym,
Mhm.
and I happened to walk in there just after, like, 20 minutes after I happened to be on Facebook, and I saw this very cool video where he was up on the roof, and he's like, "Here's what
That's right.
people look for, when they know whether or not their roof needs to be replaced." And he kind of went through like the 5 things to look at. I'm like, it was just filmed very well. It was done. It was concise. It wasn't like a 20-minute video about the same thing saying it over and over. So I walked in. I was like, "Hey, we don't know each other, but I saw you on Facebook. It was fantastic. Whoever did your marketing on that video, uh, and then it just kept growing." So you made
Yeah.
a decision to hire that person, right, to do your
He
marketing.
was temporary. Yeah, he was supposed to be in house. He's a good dude, and he did a great job. But I don't think he was as focused, as I wanted him to be.
Yeah.
So obviously we had to part ways, but it worked for the time being.
Yep.
So yeah.
So when you were working with your dad, did you take that business over, or did you step
No,
away?
no, that was so I worked with my dad on and off as a teenager. So I I would there's periods of time where I'd get in trouble as a teenager and get locked up. And so that's kind of how that went. I worked with my dad, I'd get in trouble, I get locked up, come back. And by the end of high school, my dad continued on doing what he was doing, and small time in town, little jobs, nothing crazy. He's always never had any money really. And then at a high school, what did I do out of high school? Out of high school, probably some more of the same, getting in trouble, going to rehab, getting out of rehab. I think like 6 rehabs I've been to. I had a kid early when I was maybe 21. My son, he's 19 now. And
It,
and I just continued to do that for a long time. Um the last thing here that really happened was meeting my wife. We've been married 8 years. I
okay.
met her almost 9 years ago. We were married less than a year after I met her. We were living out in the middle of nowhere on like in this old farm in this old farmhouse, and I was drinking every day. It's crack of dawn, I would wake up and I'd start drinking.
Mm.
I'd go to work. I'd go to work for this guy that I was working for. And so now that I think back, it's no wonder he didn't want to do something with me, as far I told you about the roofing thing with him. It's no wonder.
Yep.
But, I drank all day. I still did my job, did it well. But I drank all day, drank all night. And then by nighttime, I'd come home drunk and I said to myself, this is what I'm going to do. I said, I'm going to go back to the roofing idea. I'm going to start a business, and I had along this time I had been seeing videos of different roofers on Facebook and Instagram that take within a matter of a few years start a roofing business and make it into a multi-million-dollar business in 2 3 years. Even 5 years, whatever, a few years. And I said I can do that. I know roofing really well, and if I flip a switch, and I know what that switch is in my head. So if I flip this switch, and I can do that. And so that's what I did. I flipped the switch. I literally stopped drinking, and I called my brother. My brother was still working for that guy. Gonna leave that guy soon. And I said, "Hey, what if we start a business?" And my plan was not to build a big business from the start. It was just to make some money, but to be well for my family. And I said, "What if we start a business, a roofing business? You can work for me. We'll work together, and we'll share the money, whatever. We'll do roofs, and yada yada." And he agreed. So he left that guy, and he came to work with me. I had no license at this, or no, I did have a license. I had a license, but no vehicle. Like I had nothing. Didn't have 50 cents to rub together. And he would pick me up, and he would drive me around. I'd go knock on doors with cut off jean shorts. I had long hair down the middle of my back, and just looked like whatever. I thought it looked good. He would drive me to houses, and I would knock on doors and say, "Hey, can we do your roof?" And I sold a few. I sold a few. I started off with people we kind of knew over the years. I knew they needed a roof. I knew they knew me, and that I'm not a horrible person. I did not great things, but they knew that, so they gave me a shot, and we did their roof and made some money. And I took all that money into the next project, and we did the next thing. And I think over a period of 8 months or so, I finally got enough money to buy a truck, and I bought a truck. And the tools were borrowed. I borrowed a roofing gun from my dad, and probably most of the hand tools and compressor. And yeah, we would go do roofs. I would knock on doors. There was no form of advertising or anything. I didn't know anything about that. I just knew to knock on doors and ask. And so that's what we would do. And somewhere along the line, I may have put in a couple little ads out, maybe the penny saver or something. I don't remember exactly what we did, but we started getting, it might have been word of mouth. And we started getting more jobs. And I thought, and I'm seeing more videos of these roofers starting this little thing and turning it into this huge thing in a few years. I'm thinking, what, well, we can do that. So I talked to my brother. He didn't necessarily want to go that route. He just wanted to, and I don't blame him. That's what I sold him on to begin with. So I was kind of changing it up on him. And but I wanted to make it to a business, so there was no more just sharing the money. And it was, if you don't want to do this, you can work for me. I'll pay you well, but you're going to work for me, and I'm going to take the money, and I'm going to build a business with it. And so that's what I did. He agreed, worked for me, and then we hired a few guys, and I rented an office. And I think this was probably like the second year in by now. The first year we had done like 65,000 bucks. The second year we did, what did we do the second year? Maybe 150,000, something like that. And so I rented an office. Yep, hired some locals, and we're going on. And
Going back to something, I won't say I had a similar path, but there's some similarities, right, in my background, in that I was working alongside my dad and my brother, who's 6 years older than me, even though he looks a lot older than me, which isn't true. Now I look like the older, but I had this really difficult time where I really wanted to be partners with my brother, take it over from my dad, and build and build. And not that he didn't have that view, but he wanted to do it in his own way.
Yeah.
And we had like two chefs in the kitchen. It
Right.
was, and I didn't have any clout because I was literally just out of school, So, long story short, one of the hardest days I had was going in and telling my dad and my brother, I'm not going to work there anymore. I'm going into finance, which is what I went to college for. And the disappointment on both their faces, but I felt a lot of disappointment with my father. And so when you say I was borrowing like nail compressors and some tools from my dad, so my question was, Like, how did your dad feel about that? Was he
Oh,
all in on it for you
yeah.
and happy, or was
My
he
dad was
disappointed?
always supportive of anything we did. Big plans. Wasn't. He was supportive, but he kind of would say, "Well, That's not going to happen."
Yeah.
Kind of like that, or you can't do that. Just do this. Stay small. Make enough money to support your family, and you'll be fine. Type deal. Which I understand. He came from a different time. He had no idea that this could be done. As do a lot of people, as did I. I had no clue. And so he was always really supportive, no matter what we did. Just that big plans were never part of that.
Yeah.
And I understand why.
Yeah.
And that was the same mindset my brother probably had as well. Because I had these big plans, and I would tell him about it, and I was paying him cash. It wasn't on the books. It wasn't legal. We are now, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I tell people too that are trying to start a business. I say, just start doing it. Because I know a few people, one in particular, he's got a big construction business, came from, I'm not going to mention his name, but his father's got a huge construction business. He's a good friend of mine. And we would talk about the gym all the time. You probably know who he is. And, he said, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Or I said, dude, just start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what I did. I just started doing it, and now it's all worked out. But I guess that's probably when my brother left. The big plans was a lot to envision at the
Mhm.
time. He's getting paid cash. There's no health insurance. There's no future as far as he could see. And so I understand why. So I remember, I think it was the second year in, something like that. We have big Thanksgiving family dinner thing, whatever. And I told everybody, I said, next year I'm going to make $1 million. And everybody just laughed at me, Yeah, right. And I did that next year. We did $1 million, and then I think that was the third year in, did $1 million, and hired more people. I knew I needed more salespeople. I needed more for the crews. So I just continued to reinvest all the money I made. I didn't go out and buy a brand new house. I bought the house that we live in, which is a older home built in the 70s, nothing fancy. I always bought used vehicles, and I still do buy used vehicles. I bought one brand new car once, a BMW, for my wife, and I'll never do that again. She didn't like it either. It was too fancy. Too
Great. Now we're going to
Don't
get
feel
sued by
comfortable.
BMW.
too many buttons.
Yeah.
So I'll never do that again. And the paint was just stupid.
Yeah.
It was just dumb. So anyway, I buy used vehicles, even for salespeople. We did the math on buying a fleet of new. We have 18 vehicles on the road right now, something like that.
Mm.
And we did the math on buying or even leasing a new fleet, and it just doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to buy used, $6,000 to $10,000, get a couple years out of it, junk it, and get another one.
Right.
So
given your work, I would think that's probably easier than having a nice truck and you're getting get it all
Yeah.
fixed up.
well, sales, they take pretty good care of them for the most part. But even so, it just the math doesn't math.
Mhm.
Mhm. I want to go back to the switch.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to go back here.
I mean, we need to talk more about that.
So yeah, it's like flipping a switch. My dad always used to say this. I wrestled in high school, and I always did sports and track and whatever else, distance running. And my dad would say, for cross country, for example, you get to the end, and then you got to do your kick and for the last mile and get as far as you can. He would say, just flip a switch. He'd always say that you could just flip a switch and make the change. And he did that for wrestling too. You get so far into the match, wear the guy down and flip a switch, and then whatever, pin him, get points, whatever you do. And so I always had that in my mind, I guess. And I always thought that anything was possible too, especially if I was to get sober. And I just knew I could do it. I knew I could, and I knew I had to. Like I said, I had this beautiful woman over here that, loved me. And would do anything for me, you know, and
Even when you weren't at your best.
yeah, when I had literally nothing.
She must like you a lot now.
Yeah, I think she does. I'm not sure why, but yeah, even though I had nothing, I mean, she met me when I was an alcoholic, pretty much, and so I have these two beautiful little kids, and I have to do something, and so, like I said, I flipped the switch and said, "This is what I'm going to do," and I stuck to it, and it turns out it really is that easy. It's very surprisingly very easy. I mean, in my mind, I don't know. I can see in a different time in my life when that would have been difficult to imagine. Um, but now looking back, it's like, wow, if you just do this, this, and this, you can literally almost do anything you want.
Yeah.
So last year we did, what did we do? 2 years ago we did 5.7 million, something like that. Last year we did 6.4, and this year we're already way ahead again. We're trying to shoot for 10 this year. We opened up a second location in Florida. We're moving it to the Jacksonville area. It was near Tampa. Jacksonville's better. We're moving to Jacksonville. I'm going down there this week to interview 4 new salespeople, and we're looking at a third. And I've already been out there in Pittsburgh. I found the spot I want to do it in. I just need to go get it done. That's what I'm going to do after I head to Florida. So,
This sounds like an excuse just to travel, Jim.
well, I don't really care about the money. I think more people working, you know what I mean? Employ more people,
Yep.
do more work, more jobs. That's what I like to see. I like to see that grow.
Sure.
I don't give a shit about the money, honestly. I don't buy things. Like I said, everything goes back into the business.
Yeah. And that's probably what I would think the separation, like when you talk about your brother and whether it's your family or not, when you have partners in a business, and sometimes we do a lot of exit planning for folks that are ready to sell that business and move on, and more of it these days. And I feel like there are people that basically have a glorified job, even though they own the business and everything. They are beholden to that business. They can't step away
Yeah.
maybe a week.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for sometimes. But when they decide to toss the keys to someone else and hand that off, that business either gets incredibly devalued or it becomes just like sell the tools.
Yeah.
So especially I would say in the contracting world, it's very difficult to build an enterprise value like you've done. I find it, I wanted to pick your brain about this because you know way more about this than I do, but I mentioned this when we had lunch that one time. Based on your past and how you were, addicted, you were drinking and things like that, I feel like that's just an addictive personality. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurial people have an addictive personality, and you just finally realized I'm going to redirect it to this because this is better for my family and me personally. And then, and also your health. Like I see you in the gym a lot. And I think what's interesting is when I see you at the gym, you're doing, of course, you're doing way more weights than I'm doing. You're trying harder probably. But what impresses me is like in between sets, you grab your phone. I don't know what you're doing. I don't look over your shoulder, but I know occasionally I see you get up and go talk to somebody.
Texting employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whenever we're together, I can hear your phone blowing up for this hour that we're talking. You're very quick to respond. Like you're like, the business is with me. I take it with me wherever I go. And that phone helps me for better or worse.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. For better or worse. I don't know if you have problems shutting it off at night or whatever, but do you think there's anything to what I'm saying with the addictive personality? And
yeah, I don't know a lot about addiction in the mind actually, but I do see that consistently in the gym that I go to. I see a lot of people. I was just talking to somebody and he was like doing these big Arnold thing. He's actually like top 5 world champion or something in these Arnold competitions. And I asked him, I was like, what's your why? I went over, I'm like, what is your why? What keeps you going? He's doing these things that are like weigh like twice as much as I do. And he said it changes often, but he did say I'm clean for 10 years.
Mm.
And he said, I really think that's what keeps me going. And, you know, it made sense to me because of a lot of other stories we've heard here on the podcast. I want to go back to the switch thing though. I'm not done with the
Oh, I
switch.
thought, okay.
Yeah.
I felt the switch in my life, but more like with like breakups and stuff.
Okay.
Right. When you're in a relationship and you're like, okay, there's a flip that switches and you're like, I can't go back. I just can't. Like it's done. But is there another level of the switch? Like, so you made this switch to grow your business, do this thing, go all in, not stay small. Now you're in expansion mode, but is there a comfortability in expansion mode? And is there another level of a switch that you're going to have to turn on to like go even faster or
next
bigger
gear.
or the next gear?
I think there's comfortability. I can't say that word.
I don't even know if that is a word.
Comfortability. I think it is.
Comfortability.
Uh-huh.
And just don't, and not expanding. I could easily sit back with this location here and like I don't do much there. You know, I've hired people that know more than me. You know, I don't know anything about money. I'm horrible at I'm good at putting it in the bank and that's about it. But as far as keeping an eye on it, so for example, I had 3 weeks ago, we had somebody hack a bank account. We don't know how. It was through a debit card. They even got the PIN number. They bought $15,000 in American Airline tickets and whatever else. I would have had no idea. I would have had no clue.
Yeah.
You know, so I hired somebody from the bank here, local bank. He now works for me. He does all the finances stuff and keeps an eye on all that. So I would have had no clue. So I hired people that like can do the things that I, you know, would be doing that would keep me super busy and unable to leave, you know. I got an office manager, Liz. She's does an amazing job, and so yeah, I just hire people that can fill my spots. That way, I can go do whatever. But yeah, I think it's getting back to the next gear. I guess yeah, you're probably right. It is another switch to go from a single location and being comfortable. You know, I show up for 7 a.m. meeting Monday. We have 2 sales meetings a week. And then Friday morning, we have a sales meeting at 7 a.m. And then we have our monthly and quarterlies also. But I really only need to show up for those. And other than that, the thing runs itself. I mean, they text me constantly, which is fine. But I don't need to be there. And it's comfortable and it's easy. But yeah, I am flipping a switch to Florida. I had to do that. That wasn't easy. I had to get the Florida license, which is one of the, if not the hardest license to get in the country as far as contracting goes for a state. That took 6 months to get, and I had to study and take the tests 2 or 3 times. I had to take them to pass them, and it cost money and a lot of time. And so I had to flip a switch for that. And now the same thing with Pittsburgh. So, you know, I'm looking at Pittsburgh now. I have to go down to Florida this week for interviews, and I'm looking at Pittsburgh and I'm like, do I need to do that? You know, do I really need to? I don't need to. I can be fine with Pennsylvania. I can be fine with Pennsylvania and Florida, but I now have a goal in mind. And if I don't do that, I'm not going to reach that goal. And I'm so close, you know, like it was really nothing to get to this point now. It wasn't nothing, but looking back, it seems like almost nothing, you know. And here we are, you know, 6.5 years later. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's remarkable. Do you ever stop to celebrate?
No.
Yeah. See, I talk to a lot of high
I don't
achievers.
like celebrating. I
Yeah.
don't do birthdays. I hate Christmas.
Yes, I hate Christmas.
I hate it. It's not, you know, when I was a kid, it was like we didn't get much.
Right.
Like nothing. My dad would take scrap blocks from 2x4s from construction jobs and cut them up and
building blocks.
Yeah. And my mom would paint them, you know, and then my dad would build a little box that looks like a train or whatever, and my mom would paint it, and you know, that's what you got. Plus maybe some oranges and apples or whatever. But I like Christmas like that, you know, and it's, you know, it's not all about money, you know, people spending time together. And it's not like that anymore. It's
No.
like, how much can you spend to make your kids happy? Which I'm totally against all that, but it still happens.
I feel like the three of us all kind of came from a very hardworking family.
Yeah.
At my dad's funeral and my eulogy speech, I kind of used the "It's a Wonderful Life" line. I'm like, my father was incapable of saving $1. The only money that we ever had squirreled away was due to my mom.
Yeah.
She would sneak it over there. But he also, in my opinion, kind of died one of the richest men in town because he had a lot of friends. Right. So, but what all of our parents had, it sounds like, I know this from your story and everything, running a restaurant, right, it is just a work ethic, right? And then bringing the kids in, and you're going to work alongside me. You're going to wash dishes, wait tables. You're going to do roofs and everything else we did. I think that's great. But now, what I think we've all done is then taken a step back and looked at the business from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And what if I didn't just have to do 10-hour days of the roofing itself, and I could run the business and I could hire away. In your case, you said I was really good at it, right? You're great at roofing, right? But you also knew you didn't want to do that for the rest of your life.
Right.
So you just basically said, I need to hire this. When it comes to the financial stuff, you're like, I'm going to outsource that or whatever. So maybe that next level you're talking about is finding another person to do even more of the stuff you're doing today. Because I don't know. I don't follow you every day, man. You're not on my camera. I don't have any weird source of like drone following you. However, we can't talk chemtrails, but that's a whole other topic. I do know from whenever I do see you, you're always doing something. I don't know if you sleep, but I'm assuming you look healthy. So I'm assuming. What's that?
I didn't sleep much last night.
No,
but usually I do sleep well.
So you didn't sleep because you knew you were doing this. This is so uncomfortable for you to talk about yourself.
That, and there's like 4 other things that just happened to all snowball in like a matter of 2 weeks.
Oh, perfect.
So,
and it was a full moon.
Car accidents. Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't buy
this. No, that's true.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of car accidents, so one of your folks got in a real bad accident, right? So what happens when that goes on?
Oh man.
Oh, it's just a nightmare. Yeah.
But maybe you can't talk about that stuff.
But I think I can. I don't know. No, his name was Bobby, and I was down in Florida, and I got a phone call from my son. My son works for me. He's a project manager, and he's like, "Oh, Brad just got in an accident, a real bad accident." I said, "What are you talking about?" So I said, "Let me call Brad." So I called Brad, and Brad says, "Oh, I've been here working all day. I don't know what you're talking about." So I called Jimmy back. I said, "Dude, Brad says he's fine." And he said, "Oh, no, I meant to say Bobby." And I was like, "Oh, jeez." So I tried to call Bobby. No answer from Bobby. Then I got a call from a ambulance personnel that happened to the first guy there. He said, "Oh, yeah, one of your guys got in a real bad accident. It was really, really bad. Almost a head on with a tractor trailer.
Wow.
Probably doing around 50 miles an hour, or whatever the speed limit is right there. That's what he was doing." And almost a head on. The tractor trailer coming in the opposite direction, jackknifed to miss a car in front of him, and then ran into my guy. Broke his kneecap. The tractor trailer like split apart in pieces. The cab went flying over here and whatever else. And he had bleeding on his brain and whatever else. And
jeez.
So at first, their insurance company was admitted fault and was called and tried to, where can I send the check to pay for the truck? And, where do we get Bobby's info so we can pay for his medical bills, claim number for workers' comp, yada, yada. And now, a few days ago, now they're trying to say, "Oh, no, it was Bobby's fault." And so now it's like a big, I don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to fight it, do whatever I need to do. So so we had that. And then we had another guy back into some lady somewhere else, little fender bender thing. And it's like, oh my God.
Yes.
All at once.
All that stuff you just didn't expect to get out of bed and deal with that day. Right?
No.
But that's part of running a business.
Yeah.
Right.
And having vehicles on the road.
Yeah.
It's just...
18, something like that.
Yeah. Not only that, but then when you expand,
I think about that.
yeah,
I was just thinking about that. Oh God, how many? Because Pittsburgh's going to be big. Pittsburgh, I think, will be bigger than Tunkhannock. That area out there is beautiful. Every 15 minutes, there's another big town. As opposed to here, it's an hour.
yeah. I was wondering how you identify places for expansion.
Just listening, videos, watching interviews of other big owners. So I based my company. I watched there's a big owner that he runs $100 million business, if not more by now. That was a couple years ago. He's got locations in 3 states, and I kind of based I saw a real in-depth interview of him explaining how he runs his business, and I just loved him. Loved everything he did. I was like, I'm going to do that. So I kind of based it off that, and so I hear them talk about people like that, the next big place, a good location, and Pittsburgh has been coming up for 3 years now.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to go there. And I had another guy. It was a guy from Philly. He tried to basically not buy my business, but partner with me so that he could sell multiple roofing companies to private equity all at once. This was like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had just done $1 million that year, and I guess he wanted to take my business or partner, 50-50, and he matches whatever. And so anyway, I said no. At the end of the day, there's gonna be, whether they're gonna get $1 million each, it's not worth it. And that's what they did. I said no. He went with another company. He sold 3 companies for like $6 million. He gets 50%,
Mm-hmm.
$3 million, and then the other 3 owners share $1 million. It's like, yeah. So glad I said no to that. But
Yeah. So when you get that kind of a thing in front of you, are you making the decision all on your own, or
Yeah.
do you have anybody?
no, I don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
My wife, I bounce things off my wife. She's not a business person by any means,
Yeah.
but she believes in me a lot, and she initially she said, "Oh no, I don't." He's not a nice person. He could just tell, and I don't think he is either. But
The gut.
Yeah.
There's something about that.
Female
So,
intuition.
yeah. So
Men
I
have it too.
yeah, so I bounce everything off her, and then ultimately I make the decision. Though,
So a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to private equity, for better or worse, it has there's just a flavor to it, right? And many of the private equity deals have a term,
Mhm.
3, 5, maybe 7, but usually around 3 or 5 years. So they want to come in there, buy you and buy these other several ones, add it into their model, and then they want to sell to the next PE firm or whatever. And so they want to do that usually within 3 to 5 years. And in that time frame, they want you to be as profitable, as efficient, and all that stuff, so that their numbers look ideal.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's going to happen. But what's interesting is your valuation of your company as a standalone is one thing. In other words, they look at how much money you're making, and then, oh, I'll give you a 3 times that amount or 5 times whatever. But when you aggregate rail roofing and these 2 or 3 other ones, now your total numbers are bigger.
Mhm.
And now instead of a 3 to 5 multiple, they might give you a 5 to 7 or
Mhm.
something like that. But if you don't structure that deal right, you don't get that increase. You get the initial thing, right? And there's a million different ways to package it. So this brings me to a point that I think we were touching on a little bit on our conversation a couple weeks ago, where you get to a size where, even though you were doing everything in house, at some point, like, these little mistakes don't cost you $10,000; they cost you 100,000, or potentially you missed out on $1 million.
Mhm.
And so it does make sense to bring in outside people or hire somebody, like you did when you talked about the banking issue. It's hard for people to do that, though,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a level of trust. And
Yeah.
how do you vet your folks? Do you
My
think you're good at it?
intuition, I do think I'm good at it.
Okay,
Um,
that's your intuition.
yeah, I think so. I can tell when somebody is a good person. I think, and it obviously it takes more than a good person. You could be a great person and be horrible at business,
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the most important thing to me is that you're a good, honest person. That's number one. And then, for example, Matt, who I got from the bank, um, I have obviously had multiple meetings with him over there for different things or questions he had about my account or whatever. And so you get to talking to somebody, and I could just tell he was somebody that wants to do something good, something great, And I mentioned to him a couple times about, hey, what would you think about this, And I could just tell his eyes lit up, and he was pretty bored in the banking. They weren't paying him well, and he had gone to college and all this stuff, and um, so that's how I got Matt. And then, so I'm not always great at it. So,
Uh-oh.
so
Don't mention names.
Yeah.
so I had one guy. He seemed like a really great person. There was something though that was always there, kind of nagging, shyster type. But I thought, well, maybe I could use a person like that. You know what I mean? To deal with distributors and that part of the business that I'm not great at.
Yeah.
Because if they give me a price, I'm like, oh, okay, cool,
Right.
that works. But I needed somebody that could kind of be that shyster type person.
Negotiate, I think.
Yeah.
Is what, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the wrong term, but that's what he was. Turns out. So, yeah, oh man, he got me good. Not that great, maybe 30,000-40,000 bucks, something like that at the end. So he got a salary. He got me for a lot more than that if you consider he did nothing, right? So he had a year contract. He showed up for like the first 2 weeks, then just quit showing up at the office. Wasn't there, couldn't get a hold of him, but I had a contract with him, right? So I had to pay him his
Wow.
weekly pay, and then at the end, I said, "Dude, this, we're done here." I didn't get quite to the end, right? I got like 10 months in. I said, "You got to go. It's not working. You're not showing up here. You're not doing anything at all." I said, "What if I pay out the rest of the contract and you just leave?" He he agreed to that, and then he came back and said, "Well, no, we still have a contract, and I want, you know, 10,000 more, or 15,000 more, or something." So I wrote him a check for another 15,000, and he came back again, and so I'm gonna, call the IRS and do this, this, and this, and if you don't do, write me another check, and I wrote him another check.
That's like a ransom note.
Oh, it was
Wow.
crazy. It was crazy, and so yeah,
It's the side of the business that everybody hates, right? Just
Yeah.
dealing with stuff like
Yeah.
that and a lot
Yeah.
of the contract stuff and personality. So you can even hire the right person, but just they clash personality wise. So what is the phrase? Hire slow and fire fast,
Yeah.
right?
I've
It's hard
learned
to do that.
I've learned to do that. So with that guy in particular, everybody in the office wanted him gone like 2 months in, including myself. But I kept hanging on. I said, well, I kind of did, but I didn't. I wanted to give him a chance to prove them wrong and to prove to me that he was really trying, because I want to see the good in people,
Mm-hmm.
and so I hung on for, another 8 more months or so. And then, you know, then we parted ways, I guess you could say. But
Isn't it funny how the further down the road of success, however you define that, the less those things seem big, right? Like at the moment, you were probably like literally going home and talking to your wife
Oh, yeah.
and staring at the
Mhm.
ceiling, like, how am
Yeah.
I going to do?
Yeah.
And now it's like this extra story, like, oh yeah, there was one guy,
Yeah.
who
Right.
screwed me over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting. So I have a question for you before you try to wrap up and actually go back to your job that keeps you so busy. When we talk about that addictive personality, and I would put myself in that category because I love my freaking job right now. I
Mhm.
love it. I love who I work with, who we do all this work for. Without them, we'd have no business. And I enjoy my family. I enjoy going on trips, but I also enjoy mixing business in during those trips and everything. I go a little nuts when I completely unplug for more than 48 hours. So if you were to ever get this to a point where you're like, I'm done. I've taken this as far as I can go. Do you step into something else? Like, I don't know. I don't know if you'll ever be able to retire.
I would have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just seem
I would
like,
have to. I enjoy I enjoy the business building.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I enjoy that part of it. So
I think there's like
Yeah.
a serial entrepreneur.
there's no telling, I guess. I
Uh,
mean, I at one point I thought, yeah, we could I just sell it all, do 3 locations and sell it all to private equity and then move on or be done. But then I'm like, what would I do? I thought I considered just doing gutters. Okay. Because obviously I'm going to have to sign a non compete and then I can't do roofing, but maybe I could just do gutters and you can build a huge gutter business too.
Mhm.
Gutters is one of those things, something,
You-
or I considered what if I just continued to just build this business and why not? Because if I'm just going to be business building, I already know this one. Why am I going to totally try to write everything? And
Mhm.
why do I not just, maybe go out west, do some more rail roofings out there,
Yeah.
or whatever, So I don't know. I'm still debating that.
From what I've heard, it sounds like you had a vision.
Yeah.
And you believed that you could make that vision come true.
Mhm.
And then you went all in and you bet on yourself. And along the way, you keep finding new visions like Florida and Pittsburgh. And when you see it in your mind so clearly, you know that there's nothing that's going to stand in your way at that point. So, yeah, I mean, who knows what's next for you?
Yeah.
And you probably have enough evidence built up in the gym and in your life and in business that when you set your mind to do something, you can make it happen. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't see you ever stopping doing that, no matter what that looks like.
Yeah. I don't think I will. I can't imagine just not waking up in the morning and like sleep until 9 or 10 and doing nothing. I couldn't. Oh my god, that'd drive me nuts. I can take weeks off on the beach. That's fine. Like a week here, 2 weeks there. But yeah, I would have to do something, and it'll probably be this in one form or another.
I want to ask you a question, man. If you could, I say go back to your 25-year-old self. Yeah, not even yourself, just to any. There's got to be a lot of folks that are in their whatever stage. It really doesn't matter about your age, but like that are finding themselves like, how the heck did I ever get here? I'm in a spot. I'm not proud of myself, not loving my actions. And a lot of cases, it probably was a bad decision here, and then another one, and another one. Next thing you know, you're you're deemed not the guy you want to hang out with. Avoid that person all of a sudden. And here you sit on top of an amazing business with an awesome family, and you've just done a complete 180. So what do you tell somebody who's in that spot today that might be listening? Or what do you tell your son?
So I tell my son. So for example, he spent the weekend at that bluegrass festival down the road. Whatever, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's what I always did. I spent my summers traveling around to Grateful Dead shows and listening to the dead bands and on drugs and everything else. So I mean, this weekend he was there. I said, dude, look, look at all the people who are there. I did that. Um, there's nothing wrong with it per se, I guess, but you could be doing something more constructive, you know. And if I were to have done what I've done now, if I were to have started that, I know a guy. Well, Bill Ruark's son-in-law. Bill was here.
Mm-hmm.
Justin.
Yep.
He started his business right out of high school, and I tell my son this: if he were, you started right out of high school, when you're my age, dude, you could be retired,
Yeah.
And but it's hard at the same time. I'm sure people have said that to me. It's difficult. It's difficult to do that if you're just not ready. You might not have the maturity or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. You're just not ready to see it that way. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, over the years, people have said, "Oh, why don't you just get sober? Why don't you just do this or why don't you do that?" And it's like you want to, but you just don't see how it's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
So you mentioned when you did the first 6 tries at rehab, and I can't remember if the camera was rolling or not when you said this, but you kind of did it sort of half-heartedly because you were doing it for others.
Yeah.
Was the
other
difference like this time it was for you, your wife and your family and yourself?
Yeah. I think probably that's it. it was, yeah. So it was always early on. It was always for probation officers, whatever. Probation officers, the judge or your parents or whoever that want you to go to rehab or they force you to go. More often than not. And I I don't know. It's just really hard. It's really hard to um come up with why it is that way. I couldn't tell you, I guess.
You
Just not
feel
ready.
Yeah.
I
you
could
feel like you get to that point when your
Sorry.
back's up against the wall and there's like literally nowhere else to turn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this last time that I got sober here, however long ago, yeah, it was just seeing the big picture, I guess. And I'm getting older. That was another thing. I'm not old, but you're
You know.
30 years old, still doing the same shit you did when you're 15. That's ridiculous. And I finally saw it that way, and then really saw it that way when this woman that really cares about me and took me when I was a complete loser. Um, I won't say loser, but just not doing well. Uh, she was getting ready to leave, and just think about it all the big picture. She's gonna leave. You're 30, 32 years old, whatever, and you're still doing the same stuff. And unless you change something, it's just gonna be the same. I was just done with the same, I think.
Change happens on the inside first.
Yeah.
Do you think, I know I always look at you like you're a doctor about this one,
No.
but I don't know what the official stance is, but I feel like sometimes for me personally, I run from things with much more enthusiasm than I run toward something.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And I think, I've shared this with you on this show, if you call it that, I was at my bottom and it was horrible. It was just a horrible period of my life. And I was doing everything right and I wasn't getting rewarded for it. And it was so frustrating. And I felt like this is not the way that life is supposed to be. Everything I had been raised on was do good, receive good, and that delayed gratification was hard. And then at where I was literally at my tipping point within a couple months, both financially and mentally, and then a couple things happened and a couple other more things, and next thing you know, now we sit here today and just an awesome place for me to work and be a part of. And I think like your tipping point was in a different spot, but it was the same moment, right? And so you have to have temptations and reasons that you could easily say, oh, well, I'm going to have another drink, or I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to deal with this hard thing at work. I'm not going to expand and all that stuff. But you're forcing yourself. I'm not going to do a podcast with these guys. I hate talking about myself, but yeah, I made you commit to it during that lunch.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Is that
if I commit to something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you did that. Maybe kind of forced my hand on it.
I told you it got easier as we talked, right?
Yeah. I don't have any. I don't ever have any temptations as far as alcohol or drugs or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like at all, zero. I don't ever think about it. I see like a beer commercial on TV, and it's like, and they always show these people like so happy and like around a barbecue, and they each just drink one beer, or holding one beer. It's like that's not real.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So I have no temptation for that at all. No, I'm just tempted to keep going and keep building. Like I said, this location here in Tunkhannock it runs itself. I could sit back and do nothing and get bored, which is kind of what has happened a little bit. Or I could start Florida, which I did. So we go do Florida, and then we'll do Pittsburgh next, and then see what happens.
And you can do it without like retiring, right? Or selling. You can expand and say, I need another Jim Rail. I need another me, and find an interview, pay that person appropriately. And so you don't make as much on that, maybe that new location as you do another one that you start on your own.
Right.
But you're still building, and you're also building a hell of a lot of equity value, enterprise value there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think to that level. And so kudos to you to do that. It's hard to find that person or those people.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, by firsthand experience, that you guys came in and helped me out on the Stonehouse building, and your team was great to work with. Jim did a fantastic job. He was there. John, excuse me. John he was calling me and texting me on a regular basis, keeping me informed. And here's what we're going to do. You stuck to the timelines, which is very rare.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great. Like overall, I'm like, I cut you the final check and I was happy about it.
Yeah.
And it was the price that you had quoted and everything. So
so that's that's super important to me, is that we're, we promise you whatever we promise you, and that's what you're going to get, if not better. We'll always be on time. Everybody is priced the same way. I was telling her that if we were to pull up to a big, beautiful mansion, my sales guys aren't going to say, okay, well, this person's rich, let's stick it to them. We don't do that.
Right.
It's the price is the same for everybody. We have certain packages in the CRM, and salespeople just, check the box, and that's what you're getting.
Yeah.
And we always do a good job. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We do 3 roofs every day right now. And then gutters are going on every day. That's here in Pennsylvania. Florida's slower, but it's getting there. So we do make mistakes. And if we do, we go back and we fix it. There's no questions asked. We'll be back there. We'll take care of it. So it's super important. I think that's part of the reason we've been able to build this business that quickly and have such a good reputation so quickly as well, is because we don't screw people over.
Integrity.
Yeah.
A high level of integrity. Yeah.
And I like that you're an awesome example of somebody that didn't wake up and go, you know what, this is what I went to school for, or you know what, I'm just going to own a roofing company. Like, and just you realize, like, I want to do this. It was sort of a nebulous idea, and then you said, all right, first thing I need to do is figure out what the hell I'm doing and how to do it. And so you just started watching videos, did research, talked to people, and like anything in life, I think, and if you do it well, you should just, I like what they're doing there. I don't love this and this, but I really like this idea. We could do that in our business, and your business becomes built off of great ideas. As we like to say in our business, we're building off the shoulders of others that came before us.
Well, it feels really good to overcome a challenge.
Yeah.
It feels really good to overcome a challenge. And when you're in business for yourself, there's challenges every single day. Some big, some small.
Yeah.
But when you get to a place of complacency, I think as human beings in general, if we're not pushed to do our best or to push past what we think we're capable of, it's kind of a slow death, right? We just kind of, if you're not expanding, you're dying, I think.
Yeah.
So especially as business owners, if we start to feel that, I'm not really pushed, it's like, I got to push myself because no one's going to come and do it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes the silence is deafening, meaning that, like, you're 3 days in a row of just like normal business. You're like, what's about to break here?
Yeah.
The dam's about to break. Speaking of about to, we're over an hour. I promised I'd keep you about that. And I don't know if your phone died, but it was going crazy for the first half hour. So
No.
Anything else? Any parting words? I really appreciate Jim, because I know when I first said that, you were like, but I just think I have seen you, I've gotten to know you pretty well. And I just feel like I admire you. And that's the kind of people that Maria and I try to invite on the show, people that we have a lot of respect for. And I think others can learn. So hopefully there's people listening that do the same thing you did, right? And they say, oh, I like it. I like his idea here and here. And they start to build on it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Great story. Really inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thanks
then
for sharing.
when we get back here sometime in the future, you can tell us about your pilot license.
Yeah, well, I'm doing that. That's
When were you
fun.
going to tell me about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, she jumped out of a plane because the pilot was horrible. No, I'm just kidding.
I started that a year ago. And I'm right on the verge. I just need to take the paper test and then my check ride, which is like a driver's test. I just want to make sure, is if you do not so well on the paper test but pass it, then it makes the check ride that much more difficult as far as the test part. More questions and a little tougher on you.
Okay.
So I want to do really well on the paper test. That way the check ride's easier,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm like right there. I was supposed to fly today at 2:00, but I'm not sure if I'll make that one or not. But
So you're
Yeah,
gonna fly
well,
back and forth to Florida
well,
and Pittsburgh?
that and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's
Makes sense.
yeah. Once you get up and you flown commercial, but yeah, once you're in an airplane and you realize it's like, wow, this world is really small.
Yeah.
Yeah, the country's small. You can be there in an hour, or
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, be in Florida in 3 hours if you want,
Yeah.
And I'm not ever getting the what do you call it? The little star in your license where
Yeah.
what's that
The
license
check.
called?
That's something. You're talking about
The real ID?
Yes,
The real ID.
I'm
Okay.
not getting the real ID. I refuse to. So now I can't fly commercial.
Oh.
Yeah, I tried to fly commercial a few months back, and they said, "Oh no, you can't. You need the real ID." Yes, okay. Well, I'm not getting that. So,
Wait, what's the controversy with that?
oh, if you want to get into it or not.
Yeah, let's not get into it.
I
But
kind of want
they
to know.
they
too.
can
Oh.
literally, in your medical records, anything, look it up right there. It's all in one little spot,
Gotcha.
as opposed to they could still find it.
Yeah.
They'd have to search harder.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You can
some
fly
of
with a
those-
passport, can't you?
You can fly
I
the
just did.
passport, but I have the paper filled out.
Oh.
It's been filled out on my desk for like maybe 6 months.
You
I just got to do it.
gotta get the picture.
I got the
Priorities.
picture.
Oh, wow.
I got the picture and the paper filled. I just got to go take it
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not a fan
That's
of all
solid.
those. I can't remember the name of it. What is it when you go to the airport? And it's not the
The
pre.
TSA?
It's not the
No.
pre-check. It's the. There's another one where you just look at your eye.
Oh yes, the optic thing or whatever. It is.
Yeah, I want to say Oculus. It's not
Oh, it's
Oculus.
creepy when you
yeah.
you walk
Yeah.
into another country and they're like, "Hello, Maria." And just like,
Yeah.
Well, that's because of the show.
oh. Oh, yeah.
You're the
Yes,
beyond
I'm
the bottom
known
one.
in Greece.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but I just don't love them seeing the retinas of my eyes and stuff like that. But
Creepy.
I don't know
It
what I'm
is.
talking about on that topic. But
It's too much.
yeah, but that's pretty interesting. So I just came back from Florida myself, and I don't love commercial flights, but it is what it is. It's a lot better than driving.
I'll
19
drive
hours.
when I go. I'll drive.
Yeah.
We enjoy it because we have certain spots we stop at,
Yeah.
to eat
Yeah.
or whatever, hotel, and it's like driving to Walmart now.
Yeah.
I'm so
Oh.
used to it. I've done it so many times.
Well,
It's like,
stick a Yorkie in your car for those.
Oh.
19
no.
hours. That's a whole different
God.
experience. Anyway, well, listen, man, it's been a good hour here. I really thank you for taking the time today, and good luck with. I hope you get up in the air this afternoon.
Yeah.
All right, fist
thanks,
pump,
Bob.
man. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Thank you for listening. If this conversation sparked something for you, please let us know. Follow, share, or leave a review. It helps us keep having the conversations we love that you love to listen to. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more real talk from real leaders. Until then, here's to feeling successful beyond the bottom line.